Disney gave us a lot of updates at Destination D23, and there were 4 surprise announcements for Disney World that I think are pretty big deals. So in this video, I want to dig deeper into them all beyond what was announced on stage. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW, reporting to you from a remote studio in Orlando because I just got out of Destination D23. Disney invited me to come cover the event and experience the entire thing firsthand. And I've shared 90-second news recaps for each day of the event on social media. But today I want to dive deep into 4 surprise announcements that all have to do with the most popular theme park in the world, Magic Kingdom. I'm not only going to recap the announcements, but also I'm going to point out some of the most interesting details that most people are overlooking and give analysis for what they mean for the parks. And stay tuned to the end to see how accurate I was with my Destination D23 predictions, because it will be pretty embarrassing for me. So, surprise number 1 came at the Walt Disney Studios panel, which was focused on the movies. And I predicted every single possible way they could give park details at that panel. Millennium Falcon, Zootopia, Avengers, even Bluey. And all of those were wrong. I predicted everything except for what they actually announced, which is happening very soon. A Tron Ares-inspired overlay is coming to Tron Lightcycle Run at Magic Kingdom on September 15th, and Tron Power Run at Shanghai on September 16th. The blues and oranges we're all familiar with from the Tron roller coaster will be transformed into bold red and orange colors. Now, the new color scheme is fun, but there will also be new music by 9 Inch Nails from the Tron Ares soundtrack playing during this overlay. And I think the new soundtrack will change the feeling of the ride quite a bit. After listening to it, I think the 9 Inch Nails Tron music is a bit edgier and more pulse-pounding than the current soundtrack. I think it could give the ride a more thrilling feel, especially for the second half indoor section. The other thing is that it's great to see this type of overlay coming to an attraction that's only 2 years old. Special overlays are not how Disney World typically rolls. That's more of a Disneyland thing. But if this overlay proves to be popular, I could see it sticking around in some form. Maybe it would be exclusive to the Halloween party. The red is a pretty sinister color. Or maybe they could be able to randomize it and you don't know if you'll get the blue version or the red version. And Tron could join Star Tours and Guardians of the Galaxy as rides that have an element of surprise about which version you'll get. That's speculation, but what we do know is that we'll be seeing red on Tron in just a couple of weeks. Surprise number 2, and this had the biggest cheer from the crowd of the weekend.
We are bringing back a classic color scheme to the castle.
Cinderella Castle is getting a new look that looks familiar, because at the Beyond the Spires and Insiders Look at Disney Castles panel, Imagineering revealed that Magic Kingdom's icon is returning to its classic color scheme of grays, creams, blues, and touches of golds that had been seen for almost 50 years. It's the castle's original look from 1971 through 2020, when it was painted a light pink ahead of the 50th anniversary celebration. And like any change at Disney World, the pink castle has been divisive. I've heard from people who really like it, and I've heard from people who have absolutely hated it. I was in the middle. I didn't love it at first, but it's kind of grown on me. I do think the classic look works way better. Something about the pink and the scale of the castle never quite felt right to me. This feels like a return to form, like part of Disney World's identity is being restored. It's the castle I remember from my childhood, and I know I'm not alone on that, and that's probably why it got such a big reaction from the crowd. My big question is, why now? At the panel, Disney talked about how they make sure they use special UV-resistant paint that can last for 10 years whenever they paint a castle. And it's been just a little over 5 years since the pink paint job. My speculation is that just like how they painted Cinderella Castle in 2020, ahead of the 50th celebration from 2021 to 2022, they're getting it ready ahead of the next big event for the park. There are so many projects happening at Magic Kingdom over the next few years, from Piston Peak to Villains, so it makes sense to have the castle ready with its classic look before the influx of guests and attention coming for those big debuts. The other bit of news that is exciting for an Imagineering nerd like me, a new castle-focused episode of We Call It Imagineering is coming on September 8th on the Walt Disney Imagineering YouTube channel, so we'll find out more about the new color scheme then. We don't know when these colors will be debuting, but it's always nice to have a big nod to the past. That seems to be a nice trend lately at Disney World. After the removal of Muppets and Tom Sawyer Island, I was worried that Disney World was losing too much of its connection to the past. but recent projects have been direct homages to the past, like this 1971-inspired castle color scheme, the return of the magic of Disney animation at Hollywood Studios, and the next big surprise announcement. And before I get into that, you're really going to want to get subscribed to Guide to WDW for more Disney videos, because I am giving away a Walt Disney World vacation to one of my subscribers. This is real. I've partnered with Disney to give one of you a vacation. Between now and October 1st, you can enter to win a 5-day, 4-night Disney World vacation for up to 4 people, including round-trip airfare, 4 nights at a Walt Disney World Resort hotel, and 5-day park hopper tickets. So you can experience all the new offerings I've been covering here on this channel, like Little Mermaid: A Musical Adventure, the recently reimagined Test Track, and Magic Kingdom's new nighttime parade, Disney Starlight. To enter, use the link below or go to guidetowdw.com/contest and use the widget to sign up. And the more places you follow Guide to WDW, the more chances you'll have to win. Subscribe here on YouTube, follow on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, sign up for my newsletter. Each of those earns you bonus entries. And if you're already subscribed, just click the button, enter your username, and it will count. So go to guidetowdw.com/contest, get signed up, and stay tuned for more ways to earn bonus entries in my massive Disney World vacation giveaway, because I'll be sharing those across my channels very soon. Okay, back to the news. At the Creating the Happiest Place on Earth panel, Imagineer Chris Beatty took the stage and announced that Carousel of Progress is getting its first major update in over 30 years. Now that's surprising enough, but even more surprising is that they are adding an audio animatronic of Walt Disney to introduce the show. The concept art shows Walt as he appeared in the Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair TV special, when Walt first introduced Carousel of Progress to the world. There are a lot of items from the 1964 World's Fair on display in this concept art. A bust and sketch of Lincoln, a model of the Raleigh Crump designed Tower of the Four Winds that's out outside It's a Small World at the fair, and the animatronic tiki bird that Walt showed off in that TV special. I would guess that this figure will be similar to the Walt Disney animatronic that just debuted at Disneyland, as part of Walt Disney: A Magical Life. Disney describes that animatronic as their moonshot and most lifelike animatronic ever. That animatronic's been divisive. I made a whole video analyzing it and why it was a risk worth taking for Imagineering, so I'm happy to see it come to Disney World. I was expecting Disney World to get this animatronic, possibly at the One Man's Dream show at Hollywood Studios, since that would be exactly like Disneyland's version, which plays after an updated version of the film. But I love adding Walt to Carousel so much more because Walt loved Carousel of Progress. I was talking to Danny from Dr. Disney about it, and he aptly described Carousel as Walt's baby. So having Walt here introduce the show that he loved that helped pioneer audio animatronics, represented as an audio animatronic that pushes the medium forward, seems fitting. That's progress for you. Another thing that I think will help this version of the Walt animatronic. For the Disneyland version, Disney mixed and matched several different historical sources of Walt speaking, like from different interviews. So the audio to me sounds a bit too smoothed out. I think as a result of having to make all those different sources sound like they are being spoken by Walt in one speech. I think for Carousel, Disney can mainly use audio from that World's Fair TV special. I'm hoping that this will make the audio sound a bit less processed and a bit more like Walt. So everyone's focusing on the Walt animatronic, and it makes sense, that's a huge deal. But that's not the only change Disney mentioned. Chris Beatty said that we'll see what John, Sarah, and the rest of the family are up to at a later date. And I want to remind everyone that the last time that Chris Beatty was on stage at Destination D23, he introduced the rebear of Country Bear Musical Jamboree. That show got an all-new look, new electric animatronics, and a new soundtrack. I think Carousel is going to get a similarly sized update. Not necessarily that we'll have Uncle Orville singing A Whole New World, but new electric animatronics, a fresh coat of paint, updated scenes, and a new voice cast. Gene Shepard, who voiced John in the current 1994 version of the ride, passed away in 1999. So if they update it at all, they're going to need all new voice actors. And I would bet that there will be further updates as well, removing some of the lines that haven't aged as well, like John getting creepy about the Hoochie Coochie Girl, the daughter saying she needs to lose a few pounds, things like that. I also think there's a chance to rework the timeline of the show. Right now it goes 1900, 1920, 1940, and then there's a really jarring jump to 2000 as it was envisioned in 1994. I think Carousel can cover the 20th century a bit better now with hindsight. My pitch would be 1900, 1940, then jump to 1964, the same year as the World's Fair, and then 1999 as we're about to have the turn of the millennium. It's been long enough now that people have genuine nostalgia for that era of flip phones and DVDs, and it would act as a nice bookend to show off progress through the 20th century. Disney Parks blog says, quote, Disney Imagineers love this attraction, and the heart of it will stay the same while introducing the Carousel of Progress to an entirely new generation of fans, showing them that a great big beautiful tomorrow is just a dream away. So I think this update is a bigger deal than most people realize, and it's another way to honor the past of the parks. But enough about the past, let's look to the future, with the Villains themed land coming to Magic Kingdom. At the Disney Villains Icons of Evil panel, Imagineering gave an update on the creative development of the land. There weren't a lot of specifics, but there were 3 details that make me even more excited about the direction of this land. The first is that Imagineering is bringing a villains heavyweight to the team. A literal Disney legend, Andreas Deha, the animator behind Gaston, Jafar, and Scar. He's officially consulting on the project and helping with concepts for the land. He talked about how he was excited to get the call and how it felt like familiar turf for him. Andreas says he's excited to have all these villains in one place, and that the land will amplify how we see these villains with dramatic lighting and fun interactions between their bold and bad personalities. Tapping Andreas Deha to help with this project is just one example of how Disney is leveraging the experience and expertise from animators, artists, and Imagineers from the past to help guide their future projects. Imagineers also talked about the research that they're doing for the land, and it starts at the source material of the animated films and the artists behind it. But they're also drawing inspiration from real-world locations, and introduced us to a new Imagineering term, conjured architecture. Imagineers showed off pictures from recent research trips, one to Paris where they studied the Art Nouveau architectural style, which has these natural motifs and swirling designs that they said gives the feeling that nature's been cursed. They also went to Barcelona to study modernism, which has this otherworldly, unnerving appearance, like you can see faces in the design or a ceiling that looks like it's made out of bones. Genuinely creepy stuff. This should make the land's buildings look as if they were conjured directly from the Disney villains' imagination. They say they were inspired by rich jewel tones, stained glass, and dramatic curves, which all seem like a perfect match for the villains' bold personalities. Imagineers have worked with local professors as well as art and architectural historians, all in the pursuit of making a land that's Disney fantasy, but also grounded in real-world history. I think the result is that Villains Land will look like nothing else at Disney World. And the fact that they're using words like cursed, otherworldly, and unnerving has me really excited that they will really go for something that feels a bit edgier and more dangerous than what they've done at Magic Kingdom before, while still keeping it approachable for the whole family. This last detail was pointed out by Drew Smith, aka Drew the Disney Dude, so hat tip to him. Imagineer Wyatt Winter was part of this panel and is confirmed to be working on the Villains Land project. His last project was leading the team for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which has been a smash hit crowd pleaser. That also hits this great tone of being a bit more grown up for a Disney ride. It's very thrilling, and the story is about a giant god trying to destroy the planet and humankind. But it still feels approachable. There are a lot of silly moments, rock music, and the thrills are there but not too overwhelming. Having him take on a major role for this land, which appears to have a roller coaster as one of its 2 attractions, is also just really good news for the direction of Villains at Magic Kingdom. So those are the big surprises. But there were so many other cool things to see and experience at Destination D23. Rare models and animatronics, unique merchandise, Broadway performers, and Disney legends singing live on stage, a party at Typhoon Lagoon, and panels that doled out interesting historical tidbits. Like, did you know that Ex Atencio, the Imagineer who wrote Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, also did the final design for Figment? I didn't know that until this weekend. So I'm making a bonus video about the Destination D23 experience itself, which is going to have a lot of fun footage. I'm here for a few more days covering the fall and holiday offerings at Disney World, so that D23 video will be out in next week or 2. For much more about the Destination D23 news, I was just on the For Your Amusement podcast to discuss everything from popcorn buckets to late night water slides to Leslie Iwerk's new documentary. I had such a fun time chatting with Byron and Ryan, so check out that episode wherever you get podcasts or with the link below. I forgot something. I forgot about my predictions, so I'm gonna grade myself. I'm gonna do this in real time. I do everything very scripted, but I'm gonna pull up my video. So here's the thing, there was a Disney World Play and Preview event that was just before Destination D23, and a lot of my predictions in my Destination D23 video did come true at that event, so I'm gonna give myself like kind of partial special credit for those predictions. Zootopia opening date, that was right, but at the Play and Preview event. Millennium Falcon, we got a recap of it, but we didn't get any new details, so I'm not gonna give myself credit for that. Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster, we did get new concept art and confirmation that there's animatronics in the pre-show. Bluey, nope. More details about animation. Play and Preview, kind of. They did say that Robin Williams' Lost Boy character is coming there, so I'm gonna give myself partial credit on that. Big Thunder Mountain, and Buzz, dead on that, but that's also Play and Preview. We got nothing on Tropical Americas, nothing on Coco, nothing on Avengers Campus. Big swing and a miss. I did get it right that the Frozen Land opening date. So I got my first one right. Predict 1 out of 10. Batting 100. Feeling great. No Spider-Man stuff, no Tokyo Space Mountain, Disney Cruise Line. They gave new stuff about Disney Destiny, the Dr. Facilier. I'll give myself credit for that because I'm doing so bad. Nothing on Monsters, Inc., nothing on Avatar, nothing on Piston Peak. I said that they would talk a bit more about the story of Villains Land, a few more updates, but I'll give myself credit for that. So no Haunted Mansion Bar at Magic Kingdom, no Star Wars Land expansion, no new Wonders of Life. There were celebrity cameos. Patrick Warburton showed up. I did predict Pedro Pascal, just mainly as a joke, but Patrick Warburton did show up, Joey Fatone showed up, Susan Egan was there, Jodie Benson. There were a lot of celebrities, so I'm gonna say yes for celebrity cameo. The full slate through 2030, nope. And then what's not gonna happen, I was right about those. No Figment, no Tomorrowland at Disneyland, and no new parks, definitely. So, well, let's look at that score. Well, I was right about one thing. That was embarrassing. Well, this has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see ya real soon.